Thank you for tuning in to Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast Channels 6 and 22. Channel 6 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 8, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report, with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.
Session of the Sustainability Advisory Committee to order. It is April 30th, 7 p.m. My name is Chris Zigmont. I'm the chairperson. I'd like to go from left to right and have everybody introduce themselves.
Dan Chartrand, Select Board Rep to Sustainability Advisory Committee.
Chetna Palmer, Vice Chair.
Ryan Jean of Hayes Park.
Jackie Ojala, clerk. Is that the right word?
Yeah. And Krista Murphy is over here helping us. She is our conservation and sustainability planner here at the town. We are making our way through our new meeting schedule, which is presently every other month. This one was a bit scrappy, but we're pulling it together. Working around people's availabilities and things, and working on making sure we have a quorum. So some of our agenda items are from earlier in the month, but I think most of them are still relevant. So we'll open it first for public comments. I don't know if we had any via email.
I did have some correspondence. I was going to bring under other business, but I'm happy to share it now.
Oh,
if
let's
you
do
want.
that now,
Yeah.
for sure, yeah.
So I received an email from Adam Tang, who's the president of Innovation Towards the Future. He's a student at PEA. And he wanted to share some information that he collected. He did a field survey in the Squamscott River and was able to document the presence of microplastics, which I think it's really important. We know that this is an increasing trend, an increasing concern, but I think it's really important for us to have that data locally. And he did share some information on the impacts of microplastics and encouraged the town to seek out a single-use plastics ban. I did explain to him single-use plastic bag ban. I did explain to him the inability of the town to impose limits town-wide. We need authorization from the state to do that. But I did connect him with the New Hampshire network, and they do have a plastics working group. They're phenomenal. They share a lot of information. They meet regularly, and he was pretty excited to have that connection. He did say that he would reach out. He may be interested in tabling at the Alewife Festival. And so I thought it would be good for someone from SAC to connect with him directly.
Sure.
And we had talked kind of about student liaisons, and if that's of interest, that might be an individual or an organization that could be of interest.
Do you recall what year he is in at school?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't think he said that. No.
Be a shame if he's a departing senior. We got somebody
It
that
would be.
energized want to come around in a couple more years.
But this group, so he's president of Innovation Toward the Future. So
Okay.
my impression is it's a broader group, and maybe
Sure.
there's an ability to introduce turnover when folks graduate.
Yeah.
But I'll pass this around just so you can
Did
take
he
a look at the specifics.
Did they share their data? Thank you.
No, not yet, but I definitely want to follow up. I definitely want to follow up and get that.
I'll follow up for sure.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Oh,
Great.
That's exciting to hear. And how timely. Later,
Right.
I'll ask you to review your presentation last
Yep.
night, because it was great. Any other public comments you're aware of? No one's here in the room. So with that, we'll move to approval of minutes from February 21st. I'll open that up for, can I get a motion to approve minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Can I get a second? I'll second it.
Okay.
Any comments before we approve? Any issues or comments, things to bring up?
It's okay.
Okay, all in favor of approving last session's minutes, say aye.
Aye.
All right, minutes are approved from February 21st. Oh, and how do you like that? There you go. It's bullet number 4. It's already written in there. The update on the single-use plastics ordinance. So yeah, if you tuned in last night, either at home or were here live, it was on the select board's agenda last night for an update. For those of you watching at home tonight or watching this later, Chris Murphy did a really nice job of updating quite a bit of information on where we are to date, what's been done, some of the roadblocks ahead. So yeah, if you would, I'm comfortable going through the whole thing if
Okay.
it would be a good idea if
Sure.
you're comfortable. Yeah.
So, I didn't print copies of the memo for you here, but I can send it out afterwards. I'll just basically, I think, step through first some of the successes that we've had. As you know, the single-use plastics ordinance was adopted by a citizens petition. There were some concerns expressed by legal counsel over the language as adopted, and so we had been in discussions with legal counsel about that. And I'll get a little bit more in depth about a path moving forward in a minute. But first, I'd like to share some of the progress that town departments have made. Now, all staff events, so if we were to have a holiday luncheon or a retirement, for example, have switched from providing plastic bottles of soda and water to the use of aluminum cans and relying on water dispenser. For the fire chief's retirement, they even had canned water over there, which I was really excited to see. We are at the time I wrote this, we were just finishing up the last of the plastic cups, but those will be replaced with wax-coated paper. We have compostable utensils that are being used. So now that our existing stock's being depleted, we're really in the mode to start using those items. I think that we have discussed this before, but Parks and Rec installed water bottle refill stations last year, and they had a full season of use. They were installed at Townhouse Common, where the concerts are here, Brickyard Park, where the soccer fields are, and the rec park. They also offered reusable water bottles to kids in the rec camp program, which is great. And then through that, the benefit of having those installed, I was able to track the water bill and the usage. And so there were 2 billing cycles, March through May, and then June through August. And both of them had very low average daily uses. Sorry,
May I ask
average
you-
weekly usage.
Can I ask you a quick question on that point?
Yeah.
I thought about this last night after
Yeah.
we left. So we're actually able to track those individual bottle filling stations independently of the total water bill for.
We are,
that's
yeah, they
brilliant.
have separate meters, so we
Terrific. I
are
wasn't aware of
able
that.
to track.
That's wonderful.
To track that.
Thank you.
And it is added expense to track that, but it was important for how the billing works. So, long story short, it really has been cost effective. Basically, about 2 gallons per week and 3 gallons per week respectively for the water bottle refill stations. These are just at the rec park. I figured that was probably the highest usage, so that's the one I sort of dove into to analyze. And so that results to $1.30 and $2.33 for each 3-month cycle, plus each month gets a $43 meter charge. So I did commit to continue to track those. And as Nancy brought up last night, you know, we do want to see those get some more use. That's not a whole lot of use. It's not a bad thing to have them used. So I will continue to track them. And it's my hope that this data can be used moving forward for when we consider water bottle refill stations in other locations like Swayze, which we've talked about here. So that'll really help inform what those costs will be. Let's see. Parks and Rec did contact Pepsi to explore I said it wrong last night. I'm going to say it wrong again too. I think
When I grew up, it was called a bubbler. I don't know. Or
Yeah,
it's a
like
fountain.
a
Yeah,
soda
old-fashioned
fountain.
soda fountain. Yeah.
a soda fountain. But based on their usage levels, Pepsi wasn't supportive of having a contract with them. So that option kind of fizzled. They were able to secure a source for this coming season. So that's a good thing, but they don't have a long-term commitment to use an individual. They have been, for their events, purchasing aluminum canned water when it's available locally. The challenge is it's not widely available. And so I did have a recommendation for that in a minute. And then the other entity that I looked at was the library, which didn't really come up in our earlier discussions quite as much. But the library does have kids programs. They have teen programs and adult programming. And for all of those, they have some sort of popcorn or snacks and things of that nature and provide drinks. Hope did attempt to replace the bottled water with pitchers and cups, but got a fair amount of pushback from that. And so I think that's something that can be tackled with education. And that was on the heels of COVID. And so there could have been some worry about that. But my thought about this is, if you remember when we were going through the kind of trying to figure out what implementation costs would be, we got some quotes from Open Water, which is that aluminum bottled water. It actually was pretty reasonable when you looked at per unit cost. So we could get 2,880 units for about $2,800 and change, which is about $1 a unit. That's more expensive than you buy a case of plastic bottled water, but for us to really have a local source, I think we're, you kind of have to continue to push the market to make things more accessible. And I did suggest, but we still need to discuss this a little further. I suggested maybe doing a 1-year pilot program. So the town purchases for use for different departments, a couple pallets of the aluminum bottled water, and we dole them out as necessary and track it as well as we can and figure out how much people are using and assess the viability of that. And then the beauty of that is people could be more prepared to understand how much they're actually using. Maybe they can defray some of those costs by pitchers, for example, or they'll have a better way to understand how much they're using, and then that could inform future budget requests. I did suggest, the town, with encouragement from the Energy Committee, enrolled in a hydro net metering program. And so we receive revenue through that program. We're basically paid because we're a high fossil fuel user by a hydroelectric company as part of their net metering program. And through that process, we did receive just under $12,000 last year, so it's a substantial source of income. It's not earmarked to go into any sort of pot, but to me, I feel like that could be a source of revenue moving forward, and something that we could explore. All right, so
Kristen, can I just interrupt you? You talked about the library. The library has fountains.
yeah, so this is for programs. This is for you mean the for someone to take a cup up?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that there's more that we could do to explore this. I just know that, they attempted this approach and it didn't work for whatever reason. It could be that, I don't know where the fountains are in relation to where the programming
There's two.
is.
There's one
and-
upstairs and one downstairs.
Yeah.
Change is hard. Yep.
Yep.
We can stick with it. Yep.
Yeah, so, let's see. So then now kind of the more complicated part of this is the language that legal counsel had some concerns with. And so because this was adopted by citizens petition, the select board don't have the ability to amend the town ordinance as they were if it was an ordinance that they adopted. The only way it can be amended or altered in any way is by going back to town meeting. And so legal counsel recommended creating an ad hoc committee that includes members from sustainability, Parks and Rec representatives. I recommended myself and the health department, and then some of the interest groups who would be impacted by this. So food trucks, Exeter Farmers Market, et cetera, or the farmers market, et cetera, and kind of look at the language and figure out how we can tweak the language to make it more clear for how this would be implemented.
I'm glad you said that last night. I think that's a really great idea, and so whatever entity, whether it's the select board or us or whoever needs to help form that committee, I think we should push forward with that. And I want to take this moment. I've been thinking about this for a while, and I'll use this platform to say it. Just for anybody who doesn't know, I was the citizen who started that petition and got that around and brought that before town meeting. We were four meetings, presentations in front of select board, and it was at danger of not making it through till another year or longer. And I felt, as a voter, as a citizen, as a resident, that I had just enough time and there was plenty of interest to force it through with a citizen's petition. And as somebody who watches, local and state and national regulations and laws and how they affect us, I think sometimes sometimes you need to, let's just get started and we'll make improvements as we go. Sometimes that's dangerous with regulations and laws, but I felt like this one, the worst that would happen is we would be stuck where we were, but maybe we'd make some steps forward. I'm all for having this committee bring it back to come up with some specific changes and tweaks to address the language that the legal folks are uncomfortable with. and put that back in front of town meeting. 67% of the voters thought it was a good idea to have this ordinance, and yeah, no doubt we didn't get the language right. We're not expert at that. So, just for pure clarity and getting that off my chest, I'm also thrilled that you've been so engaged with this and driving it internally. I mean, every day that goes by, I'm so busy running, my professional life and family life that I'm glad you're here, seeing these things through and keeping an eye on this and helping it move forward. So,
Thank you. Yeah. We try, right? Like, it's a lot of moving pieces.
Yep.
And so the way it was recommended to move forward last night was I would work with with Rustine, the town manager, to kind of put forward a plan of who the parties would be and present that to the select board for adoption, I guess,
Great.
or implementation.
Terrific. What questions do you guys have on the update and where we are to date? Can I ask you, well, before I turn it over, I have one that's been, do you know any of the specific language? I heard something about like, well, what about streets? Are streets considered town property? Can we not distribute it?
Yeah.
Were there other specifically earmarked language that the council had challenges with? Or
There was,
Yeah.
and I don't have that with me,
Okay.
but one benefit of working with legal counsel through this is they offered to meet initially with this ad hoc committee and talk through some of those challenges. So, I think it'll be easier if we do that anyway, than if I ran and got the sheet of paper.
No,
But
for sure.
to me, it seemed like it's not a heavy lift to make the language fit what the intent of that was.
Great.
And so I think part of it is there's some clarification of user groups that, is the intention for it to apply to, sidewalks and outside of businesses is the intent, so there's some gray area. And we really need to have it stated clearly so that should there be any legal backlash for any of this, the town is in a good position moving
Great,
forward.
that makes sense. What other questions did you guys have on where we are with that?
That was actually my question. So
Sorry.
realistically, it's completely fine. And look forward to seeing any type of progress like that, especially when, I think one of the things was like discussion about enforcement and things of that nature when, realistically, it's all in good intention, but the understanding that if it's not enforced, then it's not really a thing. So
Yeah. And the way it was written and the way it was adopted, enforcement is sort of a almost misnomer. The first, it's more encouragement through, guidance and support
Right.
and offering alternative products. But there is that potential for the select board to hold back, for example, a use permit if an entity is it is deemed regularly a non-complier.
We can
And
send
so
my
we-
daughter to talk to anyone individually that messes this up, so.
I actually got a little teary I must admit, like when she said, I'll be 38 years old, like, I was just like, ugh, you should watch the meeting. It's worth it, Because that's why we're doing this,
Exactly.
Yeah.
One of the other questions I had, I'm really happy that we're watching, that we can call out the bottle refill metering. I think one of the things, and especially if we continue to just use maybe Rec Park as like the study group, right? It's a little more regular parade of people going through there. I love to survey, pick a couple weeks to survey people on, for instance, if it's only been 2 or 3 gallons per week, they're drinking something else. Great. What else are they drinking? Are they bringing their own water from home? Are sales up or down at the concession? What does year-over-year aluminum versus plastic sales look like? Just to kind of fill out the picture to understand, how the overall consumption and usage is looking. I'd love to see. Not that I want to. I know the concessions are important for the park and it helps me make ends meet. So that's an interesting component to learn too. Is he charging more or the same for aluminum versus plastic, and has it impacted sales? And what does that look like year over year? And have because I think I remember one of the concerns was the refill, we're going to take potential revenue away. So I'd just love to kind of fill that out with some more data points. So I'd love to, maybe, just even have a meeting before our next 2-month meeting and just kind of come up with what other data that we're hungry for to help kind of complete the picture.
Great, yeah. I'd be happy to work. I could draft something and maybe we could work on that
Okay.
in prep for the next meeting.
So is there a survey post events that Parks and Recs does in terms of the kids who use camps and whatever? Is there like a survey that goes out to the parents to complete on the camps that were offered, or what?
That's a great idea.
Because I think if there was a survey done, it would be great to have in that survey some kind of line to say, did your child use, refillable bottle or what, just something to keep
Easy question or two, yeah.
Yeah, just to keep the awareness going in terms of that, there are fountains available in town and, just to encourage people to use them.
No, agreed. And I know we said this before too, that, if you're a water user in town and you pay for city water, town water, you're getting a bill, we can communicate on the bottom of that bill, remind people that there are, filling stations around town, and ask them if they'd be interested in seeing more. That's showing up in the mailbox whether you like it or not, and probably nobody more interested in that than a ratepayer, so.
And just against, just to keep the momentum, going, money has been used to put these fountains in place. So, the more people know about them and where they are and can use them, the better for everyone.
Yeah, and what is the ROI for the actual taxpayer, ratepayer? Exactly. I mean, the higher the usage, the faster the ROI on that investment.
Yeah.
And realistically, that should be the goal.
Agreed. Yeah, I'd love to see them wear out from overuse. That'd be great.
Go back to language for a second.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm just not totally following. After we have a subcommittee to look at the language with interested parties and legal counsel,
Yep.
and it's tweaked,
Yep.
then what happens?
Then, right, maybe I didn't say that, so thank you for asking. Then it would need to go back to the voters for an amendment, should an amendment be determined to be needed.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else on our single-use plastics ordinance update?
I just want to repeat what I said yesterday. Kristen, great job implementing, what was overwhelmingly approved by the voters, but is very difficult to implement, and you're doing a great job of moving it forward. Thank you.
Thanks. And again, and I said this last night, but it really is department heads who are helping to push this forward. There still is a lot of confusion, so I need to really step up my game in terms of getting people to understand. I hear often people are like, oh, I just bought some utensils. Am I going to get in trouble? And I'm like, well, did you buy it for yourself or what, and so I think that there's some education that needs to happen. I don't want this to turn into the Kristen Police show,
No,
and so it really is, I think it's encouragement. And so, yes, could changes happen faster? Absolutely. But I feel like, they'll happen, and that's better than if this step wasn't taken,
Yeah, you've done a great job of being diplomatic, supporting folks, but at the same time encouraging them, and using the fact that the voters approved this. It's like, well, this is the highest power in the land said, yes, this is what we want to do. So
right.
You've done a great job of threading that needle.
Thank you.
Not an easy one, yep, for sure. No, and also I think, Nina has had a lifelong career in communication, and I've done a little as well. And so any time you want to just reach out on, hey, what's a great way to phrase this that might land better or
Yeah.
clear up any area of confusion, just to, get minds together would be great to do. So,
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, well, we're going to move on to yet another great one. One actually I'm really excited about. Next item is the styrofoam recycling update. I know it's been, again, Kristen's done a ton of work on this, and I know it's something that would be wonderful to do. I can't believe it's all the way back to, I feel like we talked about it since before the last time we talked about this, but since then, but I think it was all the way back to February.
I did kind of summarize in the handout. Just because so much of this takes some time to digest, I know we try to dissuade
And folks
paper,
can find this
but-
in the packet online, right?
No,
No,
and so
okay.
that's why I'm handing you the
Okay,
paper.
great.
Somehow I thought that it was on there, but it wasn't, so.
Picture's worth 1,000 words.
So I didn't mean to interrupt. I
No,
just-
no. In fact, I was going to come right back to you and ask for what we learned.
Oh, okay. So I guess we could start on the colored page. This is, for me, I like to kind of have the long game plan and then maybe what's our interim step. And so long game plan, I would love for us to become a hub for styrofoam recycling. This is what the unit would look like. It basically comes in a box.
Shipping container, yeah.
A shipping container. It needs power, and then there's storage within there to store the collected styrofoam. And then the picture on the right, the far right, is the styrofoam after it's been processed. It can be turned into a commodity that can then be sold. And so, this concept or this program has been implemented by the Public Works Director in Guilford. It's actually received a fair amount of attention, and that attention keeps showing up in the municipal, New Hampshire Municipal Association. I've seen her interviewed on, I think it was New Hampshire Business Weekly and others. It's a really fantastic concept to deal with a problem that we all have, which is we have this huge bulky styrofoam and nothing to do with it. So, excuse me, these numbers are generated based on the Guilford program, but, sorry, I have a very bad tickle in my throat. The unit itself costs about $82,000, so it's not a cheap unit, plus the cost for processing, meaning staff time to process it. That $82,000 includes hooking it up to power. That number might be different depending on how power is accessible. But the concept is, if you're a hub, you are receiving, I wish there was cups over there right now. If you're a hub, you are a receiving entity for your entire region. And so you can collect styrofoam from your neighbors, and it becomes something that you then sell and make a profit, but then also creates a partnership where you're helping to dissuade the disposal of styrofoam in a broader area. Let's see, so let's just talk briefly about income. It's substantial. So Guilford, let's see, so the income from selling the product that you make when you process the densified foam, those coils of foam, is $750 a ton. And so I put some comparison numbers there. Cardboard, for example, which we work really hard to collect, is $200 a ton. Aluminum is $1,000 a ton. So, it's not quite the aluminum scale, but it's getting up there. The other way that the community has savings is through hauling savings. So because you're not filling up your containers with light things and
density
taking
play,
up,
yeah,
right,
yeah.
taking up space. It's a more dense unit, so one haul gets rid of a lot more trash or a lot more debris. The other thing that is the beauty of this, Foam Recycling Coalition does offer an annual grant, or has for the past few years, of $50,000. So that could substantially knock back the $82,000 cost. And again, in my mind, this is a long game. There's a lot of steps that we'd need to take to even evaluate if this is possible, but it's really palatable to me. I feel like it's exciting, and it's something that, if we get Public Works on board, if we have the space and the facility, and we could find the additional funding, we really could make a difference regionally. The goal from the Guilford Public Works Director is a phenomenal one, and that's to have these hubs throughout the entire state, so that statewide, we're really making a difference. This was presented to an economic development group that Darren attends for the Seacoast region, and there really was, it SEDS, I don't know what that stands for, but there really wasn't any interest from another community at this time to promote it. And so, I don't know, I think we stand a chance to make a difference. The next steps, if we want to explore this, is having a sit-down with Jay Perkins and talking through with Public Works and Steve Cronin to kind of see feasibility. What's the site conditions like? What's the staff, it still needs staff to run it. What's our electrical costs going to be? That sort of thing. And then explore if this is something that we want to move forward for a CIP item, perhaps.
I think it's brilliant, in fact, that there's grant money out there that gets us, at least for the big install, more than halfway there. That's exciting. I think it runs the sort of the same challenge that compost does, right? There's the short game, which is difficult, and the long game, which you can see a brighter future if we can get the mechanisms in place. And I just made the note too, like, in addition to the bulky white styrofoam that you get in all sorts of packaging, there's a lot of food containers that are number 6 polystyrene. I'm assuming all polystyrene can go in, or do we know if it can't or can't?
I don't think so. I think, and I can send you a link to more specific details. This is really like the packing styrofoam,
Okay.
like the big chunkier pieces,
Which
and I don't know why.
In some ways, I mean, I think one of the tragedies of the entire situation is that it always comes down to putting the onus, the burden on the consumer, right? And so, we're left with the responsibility of poor choices at manufacturing and retail and so on that encumber you with all the stuff that now makes it to your garage, and now we've come to like a 8-bin sorting station in your own garage, and compost goes here, and Helpsy goes there, and styrofoam goes there, and then non-recyclable plastic goes somewhere else, and so I think one of the successes, if we know that, if we're heads up on that on the way into this, part of our plan, the short run and the long run, has to be coming up with as easy as possible plan to execute at home. And we use the composting in our family up at the transfer station, and as rudimentary as the system is, it seems to be working, right? And there's I'm always meeting neighbors up there doing the same thing, and they're turning over the bins. So I think one of the challenges, and wet compost is maybe denser and smellier, but easier to handle than like white styrofoam stuff. Is keeping that stuff captured and getting ready to go. So, yeah, I'd love to. I'm with you. I think the long game is really key. It would be great to be, especially since we're so geographically far from Guilford, to be a hub down here, and the income, especially if these are popping up all over the place, we could really benefit from that economically. It's just kind of getting there with the short range plan,
Yeah, I agree.
But anything that's worth doing is worth overdoing. So I think we just need to get into it and figure out how to make it happen.
So what's the cost to us if we took to Guilford? What is the cost to us to transfer the styrofoam to Guilford?
So then that's the interim short term. On the back, I thought, as we explore this, there's potential. Guilford is accepting this product from any community. It doesn't have to be within a certain region or watershed or whatever. And so in the interim, as we explore this as an option, we do still have an ability to make a difference locally. And so the way that I was thinking was maybe a community drive once or twice a year, where we have a collection event, much like electronics or a paper shredding event. We have a styrofoam community drive where people bring their, they stockpile it, they know the dates, they stockpile it and bring it down, and then we arrange to transport it to Guilford for processing.
But does Guilford charge us for taking?
They do not.
They do
It's
not charge us?
completely free.
Okay. So-
the cost to us would be transport,
Transport.
right? Yeah. They offer those big bags that you see here.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
You can borrow those bags, or you can get a big box truck. That's a bit more ideal because it's a little easier to kind of stuff a big box truck and really fill it tightly. It takes some, Tetris skills to make it happen, but yeah. So there is potential for us to do it. She did have some tips for success. And so those are identifying partners.
Yeah.
Most of the ones who bring materials to her are coordinated through Rotary. And I don't have a connection here with Exeter Rotary, but that could be an option if we want to find a partner. We need to identify a site that's clean and dry, transport method, arrange in advance to get those bags, have a date so that people can be planning and stockpiling, and maybe time it for some sort of big event. I think we talked when our subcommittee was talking about this, school, right, back to school, when people are getting new computers, or holidays, or something, just after the holidays would be a good time. And then transporting it there. So it seems like a pretty easy thing with the right promotion and enough volunteers, and maybe some cost, or maybe, collaboration with a local business or someone who has a box truck to make it happen.
I'm sure somebody can provide an in-kind service
Yeah.
of a truck.
I think there's some partners in town waiting to happen,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah. Or even regionally, really. If it's
Yeah.
a regional initiative, I don't think stepping out of town boundaries would be out of the question either.
I mean, to involve, neighbouring towns, would be great to do the drive. I'm all for it, really.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree.
Another thing that our subcommittee talked about was kind of trying to tie it in with, so the high school has an electronics collection event or some sort of other community collection event. I haven't seen a date set for the high school, but they tend to do it in November, kind of Thanksgiving time. So I don't know if that's when we want, if we still want to align with that, and if so, I can reach out to at least the students in the environmental club to see if it's something that they want to partner on.
And there's also the hazardous waste
Yeah,
drive.
yeah. Though that's a complicated day.
To say the least.
Already
A couple
complex.
times. Epic.
It's, yes, a lot of pieces and parts.
They don't want to bolt on another wacko.
Hazardous waste.
Yeah, we got some more hazards. No, but I think the spirit of jumping in on as many other opportunities for people to throw open the hatch of the car on a Saturday and fill it with, the electronics thing's a good example, and there's other ones. It makes good sense. I mean, it's better
is
to
that-
piggyback. Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
I was just thinking also, aside from the drives, the different drives that we may do, is there a possibility of getting a container at the transfer station, similar to the cardboard container, with a cover over it, that we can sort of get people, if people don't want to store the styrofoam in their garages, that they can take over to this.
Now might be a tough time to ask. They have a lake currently,
I know, I saw that.
and so a lot of space is being taken up
At the top.
Yeah, so maybe we wait to ask that question until the lake is gone.
Maybe an arc. No.
Exactly, we could
No, it's
float
not
the,
2x2.
yeah, I would hold up on that,
Okay.
because they're a little frustrated at the
Okay.
moment.
But I think that's a good point too. We should kind of think about where that flooding is in relation to space available for that longer game program
Yeah.
of,
Because
if
we
we
don't want
do
this
a,
submerged, I'm sure.
no.
No.
Could get expensive, yeah.
But I
Okay.
mean, yeah, so I mean, when the lake disappears through the drought.
And the normal flow of, the brush
Yeah.
is just going straight down to where it's supposed to go. That would be the time to ask. Post that.
Good inside information.
I go up there once or twice a week
Yeah.
to recycle cardboard from the bookstores.
Yeah. You probably hear a bit.
I get a bit. I get a bit of intel every time I go.
But I think in the short game plan, I think for sure, there are empty containers all over America that came here with junk from China. Getting containers not that hard. Having a place to park it would be the hardest part, but getting a container with a door that's already covered wouldn't be that difficult. And so I think, just waiting for that right opportunity to make that proposition, because in addition to a drive, several drives, just making that part of people's routine would be fantastic,
And like just things space-wise, some of the styrofoam is so big.
Yeah.
I'm just like thinking about myself. I don't have a garage, and
Yeah.
I don't know where to put it until November or whatever.
You put it in Jenna's garage till then.
No, you don't. You don't.
So there is another model that they offer, that's not the kind of, you can purchase, their bins similar to like the Helpsy bin, really, where, you could park that in your community, but you'd need to have the commitment to regularly have volunteers to run it up there. But that is another possibility too. I think we're always going to be challenged with, even if we had a bin, like I think about how challenging it is at the transfer station. Even if we had a container, someone's still going to have to like organize all the styrofoam in the container. So it's not without staff time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think doing a couple of drives would be great. Because I think people may long-term purchasing something, even though through grants we would be needing that much more capital. It's in terms of the amount of styrofoam people are going to be generating or giving or throwing away or putting in there. How long does it take before it just in terms of the income that you get in, and then so paying off that 82K, even though you've got a grant towards it. Just looking at the budgets.
Agreed, yeah.
But I think starting with a couple of drives would be great.
Yeah, so maybe can we ask the subcommittee to identify 2 to 3 opportunities for the remainder of 2024? I still think there's plenty of daylight in front of us.
Definitely.
And if we look at 2024 is just like, training up our community for this, and then also to maybe draft a, just what that communication plan would look like. Collection plan.
So like fall and after early winter, is that, or think about it and come
Yeah,
back?
figure
I
it
just
out.
worry, so
Thanksgiving would be good after Black Friday.
Yeah.
Like after the
Yeah,
holidays.
actually, the best
that might be
time-
2025.
Yeah, the best time
technically,
might be early in the new year,
Yeah.
post-holiday,
Super Bowl. Sorry.
post-holiday gift giving.
But I think just to run a few pilots in advance
Post-Thanksgiving.
to get the machine working,
Yeah.
not a crazy idea. And if there, and if it is, if the subcommittee identifies like the electronics drive as a good trial run, great. We'll learn a lot even if we don't collect a lot.
Right.
But definitely post Black Friday.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. The styrofoam might not be available until after the new year, though, because what,
Things get wrapped up.
yeah, exactly. So maybe early in 20.
We can
very
promote
early.
opening holiday gifts early so that we
Yeah.
encourage you.
Yeah.
Or just don't consume.
Yeah, just open.
Get that styrofoam to us early.
Any other questions or ideas to put with the subcommittee before we move on to the next agenda item?
I guess just clarification on the longer game is the hope to move this forward if Public Works is on board as a CIP item for this year or for next year? For this year, which would be funded in March of next year or the year after.
Dan's got an opinion, I've got an opinion.
Yeah, I think we might want to try to work with Guilford and then go for the following year cycle.
Okay.
That would
Go with
be,
it. Yeah.
maybe work on collection and
One thing,
awareness.
I don't disagree, but maybe a card to play, having been through 3 or 4 cycles on budget committee now, sometimes CIP items need to sit there and percolate a little bit. So I don't mind doing all the paperwork and getting it on the book and having it reviewed and get the seed planted, because it might get bumped, and that's which is fine, but I want people to get used to seeing that machine and think about the revenue and all those sort of things, so.
Speaking of CIP, and I'm sorry
That's
to
okay.
go slightly off topic, but the cover on the cardboard is not doing it. There's a couple of things that we might want to try to get into the budgeting process this year. An actual physical cover over the cardboard bin that would still allow it to be accessed on a regular basis.
Since you use it professionally, does it need to be an open top bin, or will a walk-in bin work?
We just, I think what ultimately needs to happen is that we need a physical building
Okay.
covering the cardboard bin.
Okay.
That obviously allows cardboard to go in and the
Truck to.
truck to access it's just, pretty much everything at this point is going into the recycling down below. So it's not being separated out, which obviously makes it of less value.
Is the cover not
It-
not
it-
weatherproof?
It is, but he's really busy up there, and it's often the case that he doesn't have time to go and roll that thing back for someone to put the cardboard in there. I think we need a physical building over that.
Almost like a shed kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Shed, perhaps open on whatever sides that it needs to be open on to put the cardboard in and for the truck to take the bin and haul it away.
Does that hit the threshold of CIP probably, budgetarily?
I don't know. I don't know what it would cost,
Yeah.
but I would like us to maybe talk with Kirk and other folks at Public Works. Maybe they can get an estimate on what it would cost. Because right now, there's very, very little cardboard that's going in there. It's, in my experience, most of what I'm bringing up there is going into the recycling bins. Because he's really busy. He's the only guy up there. He's directing traffic. He's checking loads as they come in. So he really doesn't have time to roll that thing back.
Because I was there the other day, the covering was off, was to
Yeah.
one side, and then I had some cardboard to put in as I did, and it was fairly full.
It is being used,
Yeah.
but there's a lot that's still going
Going in the other bins.
Yeah. And then the second thing that I think we should take a look at is getting a dedicated spot long-term for the composting operation.
Yep.
Because where it is tight, and it's creating traffic issues.
It is.
It was
yeah,
at the
'cause it's-
far end
I know,
before.
I think they had to move it because they had to move stuff up from the bottom, right?
Right, so what we need to do is put some kind of surface over where it was so that they can access it easily.
Right.
Because it was just on dirt, and if it rained, it was really muddy. So I think those are two issues that I've identified in my frequent visits there and chatting with the fine gentleman who runs our transfer
some-
station.
Pellet boxes, they're always.
If we could get those two things done, that would go a long ways
Great.
towards, just moving those two elements forward.
So are you thinking like a medium-sized, like pole barn style, open on all sides type thing?
Or
just to
open on
remove-
the sides it needs to be open.
Yeah.
Obviously, the fewer sides it's open on, the less likely that the weather will
Sure.
degrade what we're collecting.
Yep.
Because if it gets wet, it's also worthless.
Sure.
If it's mixed, it's worth less. If it gets wet, it's basically worth less.
And then a large concrete pad.
Some kind of surface, I
Yeah.
don't think.
That's
it's our
typically what like
Yeah.
larger composting facilities have. They have like a concrete pad with like actual radiant run through it to help assist in that composting time.
Luxury.
So, well,
Yeah.
yeah,
But you're right. get it
technically,
started.
you
Yeah.
like realistically, you can raise the pad a couple degrees,
Sure.
and that'll speed up the composting time significantly. So
We should probably talk to Mr. Fox, because they're our partner, and see if they have specs on what they'd like to see. But I do know it was moved into that much tighter place where traffic is an
Yeah.
issue because it was so
Where-
wet over there, and they had trouble accessing it when it rained or snowed. Sorry,
No,
took us off point.
not at all.
But those are two things that we should try to get into this budgeting cycle.
And while we're talking about that, we should ensure that, because right now, the bin number that we have is through donation, right? And so we should also seek town funding to fully support
Right.
the number of bins.
And that was
we have.
definitely a one-off for
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
Not something we want to do every year. Yeah.
Okay. Yep. Yeah, funding for bins. Yeah, so we'll have to do some more on that. Figure-
But I mean, the transfer station is our partner, is one of our key partners for this committee, right? So whatever we can do to advocate for what they need,
Right, absolutely.
yeah, yeah.
And out of one crazy, and I ran across this between our last meeting and this meeting, and this is a great place to bring it up. I was doing some work for a day job thing, and I ran across some information from International Paper, which I believe is the largest paperboard recycler and reuser in North America. And they're actually okay taking pizza boxes if it has pizza stuff in it. They say it can go right into regular paperboard, because the process of recycling paperboard washes all that out anyway. It's not that big a deal. I'm just wondering how we got to the point where we have to do pizza boxes separately, and who said so?
Or pizza boxes are going in the composting, right?
Yeah.
But, I think there's like, so when you put your consumer guy in the street shoes on, you see cardboard box, you throw it in the cardboard bin. And at some discussion a couple of years ago, maybe at DPW, we were told, no, that just contaminates a whole bin of paperboard. But I don't believe that's actually true. So I'd like to,
Could be a waste management issue.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know for sure.
And so we're subject to their rules,
Sure.
right? Yeah.
Yep.
And that definitely came from waste management.
Okay. Fair enough. I'll do some more homework on my pizza boxes with them. Cool. This is great. Yeah, so I've got those items to talk about to raise to put in the budget for sure.
Oh, there's a third thing.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
The entryway is really tight, and if money could be set aside to basically widen that entryway.
You mean off the street, the whole entryway?
Yeah, the way they set it up, you can't have in and out at the same time. It's too narrow.
people come through there with trailers and stuff too.
Yeah,
So it's like
yeah, it's, that's the three asks from the man up at the transfer station.
There's a gate involved there too, I think, right?
He does have a gate.
Yeah,
The
there
gate
is.
would have to be refitted,
Yeah.
but it really is too narrow.
Well, I think we're also asking more and more utility out of that station too, and so
Yeah.
that stands to reason.
Yeah, let's advocate for our partner there.
Absolutely.
Thank you all.
This goes nicely, segues into garbage bags. Been doing some homework. I'd love to hear what anybody else has for an update. I've been doing some homework on this as well, and I think like everything else, it's going to come down to working with our partner and sort of deconstructing the system that we've created. Which there's parts of it that I really like. I like that, you pay to play, right? So if you're a good, responsible homeowner and you can manage your dry waste and take care of your wet waste and compost, you're getting off pretty cheap with not too many blue bags. The things we just want to change what the blue bags are. So we have been purchasing and trying out a bunch of different strengths and densities at home, and then unfortunately, because I have to put them in a blue bag, but we're trying it out first before we put it in the blue bag. And so I think there's some very capable things. I think the trouble with compostable bags is they start to compost on you while you're waiting. So I think that's something we have to work to solve for. And my crazy ideal world, dry waste would go in a paper bag, like a leaf bag kind of thing. But yeah, I think it's all a work back from when our current partner contracts expire, what the renew time is, what other viable partners exist that would have open minds to other things. But it's also, in my mind, part and parcel with really executing curbside composting or something that makes it a no-brainer, because it all falls apart if we.
Literally.
Literally. Both, yeah, quite literally, if wet waste doesn't make it in there. So that you basically, that has to become a public service. Because if it's always pay to play for compost, or the burden of, the consumer burden of having to separate it and drive it 5 miles away, which some of us are happy to do, but not everyone is, then it's never going to work. And so really the question isn't, can we find a replacement for the garbage bags? Of course we can. The question is, how do we set up a system that makes it possible? And that's, I think, the work to be done is, if you think about just, how many nights a week you have pasta and you're punching the windows out of pasta boxes, you're like, why do I have to do this? This is a whole nother league of separating your stuff. And so the fluidity of that for the average homeowner, family person, just to have to go through this stuff every day, that's the work to be done, like making the simple system so that, if the ideal is 3 bins at the curb, dry, wet, and recycling, how do, mapping that out from ease of use first, finding the partner second, implementation third. Because every time I Google this out, it's like, yeah, of course, and try out experiments, of course it works, but, how many hoops of fire do people jump through, right?
Are
But
there?
why-
Oh, no, go ahead, Jen, I'm sorry.
So, I always want, I know you pay for what you throw away, I understand that. But why even have bags? Why not just use the bins? That you would then purchase a strip of stickers or whatever it is, so that for every time you put your bin out, you're paying for that collection, right? You've already paid, say, $2.50, whatever it is, for one sticker that you use. Yeah, so you buy it like a raffle ticket. You buy a strip, and so why even introduce the bags? Why not use the bins, which is a container, and so if you got your waste, you put it in, however you want to, if people will use plastic bags or whatever it is that goes into landfill. I know we wanted to get rid of single-use plastics, I know that, but I'm just sort of trying to think that, so the bin that is collected is void of any extra plastic bags, that it's just full of your waste that's going to landfill and it gets emptied out into the collection. Do you understand what I'm
I do.
So,
This can all be traced back to New York City, 1960s, eliminating the rat population, where we always just put our garbage in a steel can and a steel lid, and it was a rat czar in New York City that drove us to the plastic bag thing. They started distributing plastic bags, and people used to put their waste in the tin can, the garbage metal can, the galvanized steel. And there was the driver behind all this. So really, it's unraveling all that. I don't disagree. And maybe, probably most of America doesn't pay to play. They just have curbside collection. And because I think if we looked at the budget across like the last 5 years, I looked at it over a couple of years, it's about the same number every year. We're not really changing the economics of it at all. And, you might get angry at your neighbor who has 4 bags, you only have 1, but really the economics kind of level out. They're not that dramatic. So you're right. Why not just put in a bin, and the bin gets picked up by the machine and dumped into the trash can?
yeah, but you could pay, if the town is concerned about, wanting people to curb their
Appetite.
the amount of waste they throw away, we want them to recycle, we want them to compost, and, we want them to be good citizens, ultimately, then, the town could still sort of pay for disposal, right? Through,
Sure.
like I said, you could, instead of plastic bags that we're being asked to use with, which are specially made and got stamp of Exeter or whatever, is you buy a strip of, 12 stickers or whatever, so that just like you have stickers to get rid of oversized items. So then, every time you put your black bin out for your landfill,
It's got to have the April sticker on it.
yeah, and so you're trying to get people to stop using plastic bags. Then again you go, you're eliminating the use of compostable bags, the use of paper bags. the bin is what is the container that just gets emptied.
So you're just registering your bin, essentially?
Yeah, you go see Annie Kohler downstairs, you get.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, I just came back from England, and you know, they have to encourage people. So your landfill waste is collected every 2 weeks in England, right? So that and the bin is smaller. So and your recycle bin is bigger, and your compost bin is bigger, and they'll collect your compost bin and the recycle bin weekly, but then your landfill waste they'll collect every 2 weeks to encourage people to stop, you know, and think twice about what they're throwing away. That goes to landfill.
Makes sense.
It does
Yeah.
make sense. That's how islanders think, because they're surrounded by water. The problem we have is Iowa. It just keeps going. There's no end to where we can bury
I'm
it.
sure Iowa doesn't like it,
No, I'm kidding.
you know, but yeah.
You were going to say something, Dan.
Are there examples of successful curbside composting?
San Francisco, city of San Francisco.
They do it.
Yep,
England.
the country of England.
So, Mr. Fox, so I had reached out to Mr. Fox to talk about the potential of a pilot program, and they do have one that this year, I believe, they started, and I can't remember if it was in York or South Berwick, Maine, but they said they'd share those numbers and results with us, so we will have some of that information, because the contract that we have, remind me when that expires.
2025.
2025,
Yeah.
okay.
So we're at the dawn of it. Yeah, we're right at the footsteps, yeah.
So those negotiations have to happen now. So Mr. Fox is doing a pilot curbside
Yeah.
composting program?
They are. I
In a
don't think it's
town
a
in southern Maine.
town-wide. It's a portion of a town or something like that. I can't remember how they worked it out,
So
but
it's very much a pilot.
yeah. Because I think even for them, it's a capacity issue. They're not sure that.
And
they
who
have-
negotiates the waste management contract? The town manager?
Public Works, and I assume,
So at our next meeting, we should schedule time to talk to them. Because we're in our silo here tonight.
yeah.
But we should invite them to meet with us. Because those negotiations are going to start, they can't wait till the end of the
And
year.
by the they, you mean DPW or waste management?
And/or the town manager.
Okay.
I know Russ, well, he's always presented it to us. I don't know if he negotiates it or not, but it'd be great to have town manager and
Yep.
DPW, representatives from DPW here to talk to us, because, yeah, they should know that this committee is concerned about the waste management contract that is probably being negotiated now.
Yep.
You know, and we can be respectful and we're not going to pound on the table and say, this has got to change now, but they should know that we are discussing this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
And there
unfortunately.
was early
Sorry.
discussion.
And we have a vision
Yeah.
for a different way of doing things.
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah.
Because the company, the ones with the red trucks, I can't remember what they're called. So I spoke to them. I can't remember what's the company called.
Or previous provider.
No, they collect. I don't know. I can't remember. There are three companies. There's
Casella, yeah.
Casella, and then there's the waste management, and then there is a truck that I've seen, and I have spoken to them at one of the road races that I did.
I think they were a previous provider.
The red truck people.
Yeah, I can't remember their name either. I
I can't remember.
apologize.
But
But there was a lot of dissatisfaction with the regularity
With
of
them.
their pickup,
because they
which is why we ended up switching.
right, because they collect for some of the retailers. I know they have a contract with some retailers, and I spoke to them about curbside compost pickup, and they said that is something that they're looking to roll out. So, so I don't know what other major players are around
Yeah.
aside from those three.
So definitely, I put in the notes, we'll do that for sure, to make sure we bring somebody from town management and DPW to the next meeting to have the discussion about it, about the contract. I think that the bigger challenge is really, there's a limited number of providers, which means it's not a very competitive field. It's run by very big publicly traded companies that have different interests in mind. And also, our residents have certain, just performance issues at the curb, right? It's got, the timing of things is also important, and I don't want to discount that. And so just kind of finding that balance between how do we move forward to a better standard without an inconvenience or mild inconvenience at worst to.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of, as I recall, I was on the select board at the time, I think we went to Waste Management in 2015. We've been with them for almost 10 years now.
Okay, so maybe we've had
And
two.
a lot of what drove that was there was a former a person who had worked in the waste field who was on our select board, and he was very, this is anecdotal, so like, if I've got this wrong, I apologize, but he was very concerned about the previous provider and the punctuality, and, there were issues. Trucks would break down, things wouldn't happen. But he was very concerned about it. So that's kind of what drove us towards waste management. And they definitely are, they're very reliable, but they're definitely less flexible and less interested in these sort of kind of initiatives that we're talking about here. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the history of how we ended up in the arms of waste management. And maybe we can take another look at it.
Yep. Yeah. Very.
They are very reliable. They are like clockwork. And the previous provider did have issues.
But I think if the town has had a contract with them for nearly 10 years, I mean, the standards or the services that, waste management as an industry has changed so much, and what they can do with the waste and everything has changed, and
Sure.
Technology has changed. So I think it's really important for us to, have this time to have those discussions as to what are the processes, what are they able to do,
Right.
and be clear about it.
Sure.
How long have those curbside recycling or composting programs been running? The ones you mentioned?
Boy, I mean, I became aware of the San Francisco one maybe 4 or 5 years ago.
So within the time frame of our having
sure.
been with waste
Yeah.
management. So, we could open a conversation with our officials who are speaking with them.
Yeah, we need to come up with the.
Yeah, I mean,
Other
to
success
me, that
stories.
seems like the right next step. Because we can chop it up all we want here.
Yeah.
But if we don't have the principals in the room that are speaking for us,
Yep.
then it'll have no impact.
No.
And what is doable.
Yeah, and also we also have to recognize our it's got shareholder values, number one concern at Waste Management, right? So our amount of revenue, our $1.5 million a year, doesn't move the needle a lot, but I like to think that there's people thinking about other things there as well. So
Yeah, but minimum, the aspirations of this committee should matter. And they may not be doable in the short term, but if we make our aspirations known to the folks that are working
Yeah.
on these issues, that will help move us towards those aspirations.
I like that thinking.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I do think it could be helpful to meet in advance of the next meeting. I know there were conversations with Jay,
Yeah.
and so at least to have another touch point and talk about what are the areas that your concerns are so that they have a chance to prepare before coming here.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's an existing subcommittee of
Yes.
you and me, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Team garbage over here.
Yeah.
If you would like me to join you on this
I'd lo-
particular thing,
Yeah.
I'd love it.
That'd be great.
I would be willing to do that.
Thank you for that. Yes. So I'm going to put that in there. The three of us find a time to meet. Okay, terrific. Onward and upward, upriver, Alewife Festival, moments away.
It is. So the ALY Festival is scheduled for May 11th from 10 to 1 at Founders Park. Knock on wood for good weather. We have a ton of partners. It's grown quite a bit beyond just the town committees. So DES will be there. RJ's is partnering. They're bringing some of their battery-powered lawn care equipment
Oh,
to
cool.
demonstrate, which is really exciting. I know, it's so exciting. The Nature Conservancy will be present. They're going to have an oyster display sharing the benefits of oysters and their ability to clean water. So you place them in both, half of the tank has oysters and dirty water, the other half just dirty water, and throughout the course of the day, you see a dramatic change because they're filter feeders. It's really cool and super tangible. Fish and Game, of course, will be there with fish. Fort Rock Riders will be there, or at least representatives thereof, to talk about the Rugg property and give some background there. We have nature photographers, John Salita, Annie Brown, Ryan Whiting, and Dave Soms, some of which are affiliated with Seacoast Artists Associations, and more. So I think our time tonight would be to really talk about what SAC plans to present, and if there's ways that I can be of help to prep materials. It would be a great opportunity to reach out to the student, and I can get you his contact info to see if a partner table or, I'm open to any way I can help make your table a success.
Well, that would be great. I think we have to pick a thing. It's actually one of the few Saturdays between now and October that I'm here, so I'm excited to come down and do something, even if it's just holding down a tablecloth.
What we did last time was really windy.
It's a great time last time.
Yeah.
We give away all of our composting
did.
bins, right?
And I've had 3 people reach back out with interest for more. You do have a budget. I'm not sure that we could get them in time, but I could look into that if you want to do additional compost bins or a subset of them.
We could bring an example and do a sign up as well. We just get a Google form going and just, collect names and explain compost. I mean, I think we just need to pick a thing to talk about and
I think
And-
composting is really
Yeah.
the best thing to talk about.
And help see.
That,
bins.
those two.
alternate waste, that's what we're gonna talk about. Yep, what we do. We can collect help see stuff,
Yeah.
why don't we? Yeah, and we'll talk about compost.
Oh, yeah, because that's all
Yeah.
dry, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Remind me.
And we could also, for those that don't want to wait, we can steer them towards resources for buying a compost bin,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Remind me the hours of IOA Fest?
10 to 1 at Founders Park. Oh, and DES is piloting their culvert cornhole game too, which is really hilarious. I love it.
What's covert about it? You don't know where you're throwing the.
No,
Culvert.
culvert.
Oh, I thought it was covert. How do you know where to throw it?
Culvert as well.
Blindfolded.
Thank God it's culvert.
Yeah.
Okay, that's better.
I'd be willing to do an hour at the table.
Great.
So I know I was there last time, and it was
Yeah.
a great time. Willing to be there early to help set up and everything like that, and do a full hour or more, whatever I can do for the day at that time. So,
Great.
yep,
I will be there.
Yeah, I'll be there as well,
honestly, one of my favorite events. Remember it from when I was a kid. So
as long as it's not raining.
I'll bring an umbrella.
I'll be there when it's raining.
So does anyone
good.
have a bin they could bring?
Sorry?
Does anyone have a compost bin?
I have.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
Great.
I can
And I
bring
did
a couple
find-
of bags as well.
Yeah, I found a bigger, you gotta go for the 6-gallon bags. That's the magic size, so.
Yeah, it's good to know. I've got
So we
4.
can give compost
Does-
tips.
Yeah.
as-
Does RJ sell compost bins?
Here's your starter kit.
Yeah.
As a company that's there supporting.
Yeah.
If they do sell those compost bins as a supporting company.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Try and guide people. Hey,
I'll find
RJ sells these.
Stop on your way
Yeah,
home.
On your
those
way
folks
home.
with the battery powered.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Oh,
I
yeah,
will
I'd
find
love
out.
to send people that way.
That would be, that's a cool local spot to send people, so.
And you
And
got
better
buy
than where
local.
we
There
got
you
them
go.
Yeah.
A huge.
And you can burn your chamber
business
dollars there if you have
benefit.
your, yeah, they're part of that program too, exactly.
It's a great idea. Okay, I'll follow up.
Cool, so we have somewhat of a plan. Do we need a table? Do we actually have a physical table? Do we need a table?
So Parks and Rec is providing tables.
Okay, great.
If you need one. If you don't have one, I can get one. I
From
think
Parks and
they-
Rec?
From Parks and Rec, yep. I think they had 8 tables. So I haven't quite yet got a count of how many people need tables.
Okay.
If that doesn't come through, the bookstore has a table. We can loan you for the day.
Okay, terrific.
And I have a table.
There we go. Man, wow. It's coming together.
So
Sounds like a
Oh,
party.
you had that
QR
cool
code
table.
creator with the Google form.
Yeah.
Boom.
Done, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, piece of cake.
And if we have the PA student with their data on microplastics in the river, that'd be great.
It would be great.
A link to his findings.
Yes.
If he's willing to share.
Yeah, exactly. Proprietary data.
Cool. I think we could do follow-ups with the 4 of us for Alewife Festival without breaking any rules.
Yes, because that's a scheduling thing.
Yep. And then we also have Earth Day YMCA presentation on the agenda. At this point, is it more just reaching out to Kim or whoever over there and planning for next year, or just education in general, I guess, or?
So I think they were looking for, I think they chose Earth Day just because there was alignment there,
Yeah.
but looking for something to share with their members what SAC does. But
Cool.
perhaps a follow-up and ask their preference.
Okay. Did they reach out to you directly?
I think they reached out to you?
No.
No. I will follow up.
Definitely
then.
somebody, though. I mean, I have good friends over there. Kim's a neighbor, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I can reach out, no problem. I think
Okay.
we're redoing the gymnasium floor this week, so we can come to the basketball or pickleball. Those are the key agenda items. We'll open up for other business.
I'd just like to say that, the yoga studio that I teach at, Humble Warrior on Portsmouth Ave, we did an Earth Week Helps You Drive.
Oh, cool.
And unfortunately, Helps You weren't able to deliver a bin to the studio in time, so I collected and then used the bins at the transfer station and the one behind in town, by the police station, and I managed to fill up all 3.
Whoa.
Whoa.
So yeah, yeah.
Cool.
So that was,
That's
and
awesome.
again, I think I guess the learning is that there's a lot of people. I mean, that use the studio are local, and the awareness is still not there. So I think it's any opportunity we get that chance, like the Alewife Festival or anything, is just to constantly have all that information to say, did you know we have water fountains? Did you know that we have these bins available for you to use, to recycle textiles and keep them out of landfill? I think it's a constant drip, 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 drip. So
Does everyone get that bi-weekly Exeter report that Exeter TV does?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we should have a regular rotation in there
Yeah.
good idea.
for projects that we're doing. Like, that gets a huge amount of views.
Yeah.
I've had a video, a series of little clips sent through about composting, because one of the people who got one of the compost bins, I'll email them to you, and
Yes.
then they need to be strung together, edited together, so that it forms a little
Yeah.
clip.
That,
Great.
and Exeter TV, I would imagine, would love that because that's ready-made content.
Yeah.
A little less footwork for them.
Yep.
Excellent. On that, by the way, on the Helpsy thing, could we reach out and get an update on just how, or do we know how Exeter's performing? And
We do.
We do?
I don't off the top of
No,
my
but
head,
for
but we
next
get
meeting?
it.
Yeah, that'd
Yep.
be great, just to get
So I did a
tonnage or.
tonnage, I did a little post for promoting
Oh.
at the yoga studio. So they, in 2023, we, Exeter residents, 12, enough clothing that filled 12 school buses.
Wow.
Let me just get my
Like the
stats
weight
right.
of 12 school
In
buses?
fact,
Is that-
we could structure our meeting to have like a regular report on the metrics for our projects.
So 12 point,
Could be an agenda item.
I love that.
Yeah.
I'm writing that down.
Like, here's where we are on composting, here's where we are on
Yeah.
Helpsy, here's where we are on fountain refillable bottle usage,
Yeah.
amount of water.
Yeah, I was doing some, when you were talking about gallons per week, I was instantly thinking
Yeah.
how many 12-ounce bottles of
Turn it into a
like,
game.
You know, like,
Turn it into a game.
yeah.
so it's 12.2 tons of clothing was diverted
There
from
we go.
landfill in the year 2022.
12.2 tons in Exeter.
This Exeter.
That's something else.
That's a lot.
Something else.
That is a lot. Yeah.
So
Dan, that's brilliant.
Yeah, it's
Just a regular metric
agenda
table of
item,
things to
right?
report on.
Here's our report on our metrics.
Wow, love it.
Some KPIs, if you would.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for the tech note, Tim.
yeah. Performance indicators.
Good to have an
Just
expert.
started, you know,
to have
key
an
performance indicators.
Exactly.
Business is getting bigger.
I think
Oh,
there's-
then I'm going to nominate you to identify, let's keep it tight, like, give us 8 metrics that we can
No?
can track.
I'm down.
All right.
And equate them to things that people can relate to.
Yeah, like how many bananas is that
Yeah.
exactly?
For sure.
Like,
Sounds great.
always have.
There we go.
And I think there's a new contact for Exeter for Helpsy.
Okay. Do you have it, or
No.
Public Works has it?
I have no idea.
Oh, okay. Okay, gotcha.
But it's new.
It's new.
But the person we were talking with isn't there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have someone else.
We're now at unhelpsy. All right, no other business?
I have one thing.
Oh, great.
Revision Energy actually looked into getting involved with this.
Oh,
We reached out to the Guilford facility, and we have a sustainability officer, which is a newer position this past year, and is overseeing all of our recycling programs. As a renewable business, we take it fairly seriously and have tons of recyclable materials in terms of like the expensive stuff, copper wire, that kind of stuff, all the way down to styrofoam, which a lot of the materials or the equipment that we install comes packaged in. So one of the things that we looked into was that I reached out to our sustainability officer from our last meeting and said, hey, check this out. This is, this is you. This is all you. And he looked into it, and what was interesting was he came back and stated that the facility could not take the volume that we were producing.
Oh, really?
Guilford
Oh my
couldn't
God.
take the volume.
Wow.
And it was for company wide. We have, branches over multiple states. And it was very interesting to hear that.
Yeah.
And then have him be like, oh, but we're still playing around with like, what would it take for us to get our own and stuff like that. And I was just like, dude, that's amazing.
Yeah, what if you were the node?
Right.
We just brought it to you.
So like, that
There's
was
space
like,
for that over at your Brentwood
no,
office.
we do not. We don't have space for that. We got way too many solar panels.
But I mean,
for
it would be
sure.
somewhere probably in some.
Yeah, so it was just cool to know that he was willing to reach out
Yeah.
and do that type
Super.
of legwork. And, all of our stuff has changed to compostable and hard, utensils in the office. We don't have any plastic cups or anything like that. All compostable stuff. We are a partner with Mr. Fox as well, so they come and pick up regularly. And
Cool.
just like really cool and interesting. So just wanted to
So-
share that we looked into it as a serious serious thing for a while. So
So are they still exploring being
They're-
a hub, or
that
a
is
hub
not
for
something
themselves?
that I know.
Okay.
But I can reach out to my sustainability officer about it, see where he's at with it, and see what type of options he's looking into as a commercial business, and what are we doing with our waste?
Yeah.
That has been a huge focus recently in terms of our facilities focus. And we've gotten to a point where we have, our own thin film recycling. We have, obviously cardboard. We have our own e-waste bins. We have everything that's separated that our warehouse team takes care of. And it's amazing to see the crews coming back and literally picking out the trash and scraps, and the coated wire versus the bare wire, and like separating out all the different metals that they had worked out throughout the day. We have multiple different buckets on the trucks that are all labeled, and it's pretty cool. So
You know what they're
Just wanted to
doing?
share
They're
that
creating a
as
spin-off business right there.
Exactly, yeah.
just wanted to
Yeah.
share
How far is
that it's definitely. I've noticed that the company has taken a major turn to try to affect their waste streams. So
That's brilliant.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful example, right? It's a for-profit company who's taking control of a waste thing and actually can turn it into a profit center and actually help communities
If they wanted to go that
if they
way.
want to go that way.
If they wanted to go that route.
Because it's funny, when we were talking about it up at the transfer station, I came back to the ends, like, we can invite revision, just make it self-contained, so it's solar powered on the top of it. And like, oh yeah, well then we have our own solar program going in there, so it wouldn't really matter, but, just imagine.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I was like, so pole barn, what's the structural liability of this building? Yeah.
So the issues are organization and scale, right?
Yeah.
And you're moving towards both
Yeah.
as a company.
Yeah,
And they're seriously a spin-off there.
we're seriously trying to take control of our own waste streams, and making sure that we're doing everything that we can to separate everything out as efficiently as possible, so that it doesn't affect and be contaminated downstream to be
very
fully
cool.
tossed. And my sustainability officer, he's super passionate. And if you guys would be interested, I'd love to maybe get him in on a Zoom call or something like that.
Or a field trip.
Or
We'd love to have a
something like
field
that.
trip. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
so-
both.
Or both.
Yeah. So absolutely. I would be more than willing to coordinate a visit to the warehouse
Oh, yeah.
to show off what we've been doing in terms of a commercial industry, but also having that sustainability officer call into one of our meetings and just talk about what his big projects are.
Yeah, maybe, and just to nudge them and say, and then make that relatable to a household. So if we do this at scale for our business, and we go through these sort of separations, what are like 3 easy things that every household could do to just make sure, because that's the thing, like, how do you make sure it gets from the curb to its destination without contamination, right? So
Yeah.
like, what's the low-hanging fruit for any household?
Yeah, exactly. And like in a commercial setting, contamination is like very hard to control because of how many
People, yeah,
inputs
sure.
and things, and then you have to be kind of all on the same page. And we've gotten like trainings as to what goes where and official handouts and stuff like that. So, but
Get the elementary schools in there too, yeah. Yep.
dude, love that education portion.
Wow, that's super cool.
Great report.
Very cool.
Okay, any other topics, any other business? I say then we move to adjourn. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Can I get a second?
Second.
We'll call this meeting closed. We adjourn at 8:31.
Thank you for tuning in to Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast Channels 6 and 22. Channel 6 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 8, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report, with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.